The governor of Anambra State, Soludo, on Thursday said his political party, All Progressives Grand Alliance, would adopt President Tinubu for another term in office. The governor said the president's political party and the All Progressives Congress shared the same progressive ideology with APGA, which then makes it logical for him to support Tinubu to achieve his vision for the country. President Tinubu paid back the compliment by stating his administration's resolve to continue to support Soludo to actualize his vision of making Anambra a peaceful, secure, livable, and prosperous homeland for all Nigerians, irrespective of tribe, ethnic, and religious affiliations. Well, Rise News analyst Dayo Sobowale joins us now to discuss this endorsement and what it could portend for opposition politics ahead of the 2027 general election, as well as the chances of APC in the forthcoming governorship election in Anambra State. Good afternoon, Mr. Sobowale. Many thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure of being here, Silo.
Another day, another use of terms, adoption by Governor Soludo. Yeah. He's calling them both parties progressives in this case, but some are wondering, including myself, how does this endorsement fundamentally alter APGA's historical identity as a regional opposition voice?
Yeah, it is a realignment of forces, a pragmatic realignment of forces for developmental purposes, and I welcome it. Get me? APGA has always been an independent party. It has not been swallowed, as you were estimating yesterday. It has not been swallowed in any way. But there is a realignment of forces. You see, you have to be pragmatic. We are in a federation. You get me? And each state has its own need and purposes. You should not go into isolation in a democracy. That's what Soludo has done. He has aligned himself with the center. I call it a realignment of forces, and he has supported this president. On the surface, it is clear-cut to me that he's doing it for the development of the state, which is okay.
All right, some would say that it's more of self-preservation as against probably politics of ideology, because when you look at it from the optics, first of all, there was the appointment of a certain Bianca Ojukwu from the APGA in a Tinubu's administration. Yes. And people were raising eyebrows that probably he's trying to cut APGA, and we see this happening openly. And we know there are elections in November, governorship elections in November. And Professor Soludo, some are saying that he's looking for a second term. So he's almost trying to wet the ground and ensure that he gets federal backing as against the APC with the likes of Valentine Ozigbo, who have moved.
What is wrong with that?
So the question is, so it still goes, so permit me to learn. Yes. My whole question is this. Two things. Firstly, is this not a case of self-preservation as against what you were saying about it's being part of what's
developmental economics?
And some will say that no, it's more of self-preservation, one. And
let
two,
me, if you don't know what I meant,
and secondly, my second question,
I will tell you.
Okay, my second question is this.
You have not asked the question.
I've asked
you
the
have
first
just
question.
Speculating on
no, I'm not speculating.
Soludo's ambitions.
I'm not speculating.
Which, as far as I'm concerned, are legitimate.
Okay.
If you want to be president, what's wrong with that?
So now, okay, so my first question is...
If you want to contest against him, collect the 100 million naira for.
So my first question is this.
Yeah.
Some are saying that it's because he's looking for a second term. Yeah. That is why he's doing this. And others are also looking at, when you talk about the one-party state, if everybody seems to be queuing up behind one candidate ahead of 2027, and we are seeing opposition voices all saying that the president is the next best thing after sliced bread.
You have not asked the question.
So the question...
Let me comment on your insinuations.
Okay, comment on
that.
Okay.
You see, for Soludo to want to be president, it's legitimate and democratic.
No, governor.
Wait, you have seen it from his personal ambition.
No, we're not talking about president.
I'm seeing it as somebody who is trying to develop the state. And he said he knows the man at the center, they've been friends before, and that they have the same progressive ideology. You don't buy that. That's your own problem. You get me? But as far as he is concerned, he's doing the best for his nation instead of for a state, instead of being confrontational and going home empty-handed. And the people of Anambra who will suffer. They have given Tinubu so many titles now that I'm sure I can't remember all of them. But that is democratic politics, consensual politics, as against the politics of paranoia, persecution complex. That you think if anybody is at the center, it's time to swallow up the opposition. I don't buy that. We discussed Nasir, the former governor of Anambra. That one is busy building an opposition that will eliminate Tinubu from office in 2027. And Atiku said he's not leaving PDP, but he's forming a coalition to make sure they depose Tinubu from office through the electoral process. Are you still hankering on the one-party state? I disagree.
No, but if all the governors, so my second question, if all the governors, if all the sitting governors are almost queuing up behind Tinubu, then
what's wrong with that? What is wrong with that? But politics, democracy is a consensual issue. People come together, people of like minds come together. And if you don't like what is going on, you go to court. We are running a presidential system of separation of powers, and it's a federation. If you don't like it, I commend Soludo for looking after his state so well. Next question.
All right, Mr. Sobowale, let's expand this in a regional aspect. How do you think this realignment might affect other southeastern governors' political calculations?
That's right. Even before I go to your own case, you mentioned Bianca.
Yes.
The appointment of Bianca. I think it's a most wonderful thing to solidify our unity. If you know our history, you know who Bianca is, the wife of a former rebel warlord from that area, and is accommodated, and is even in charge of foreign affairs, representing us overseas. If you don't like that, it's your business. Okay. Many Nigerians, especially from the southeast, will endorse that. Oh yeah, your own question.
I asked how this realignment might affect other southeastern governors' political calculations.
You bet they won't all go that way.
Okay.
You get me? Look at it. I think APC has more governors in the southeast. I think Labour has only one. Okay. And you bet that other one is probably closer to Tinubu than to Soludo. You get me? You see, don't let us jump the gun and conclude that people are going to head in one direction. 2027 is still far away. But like I've always reiterated, there are going to be realignment of forces. That is politics. It's not the politics of the graveyard. Do you get me? And Nigeria is not a democratic graveyard. I repeat again, it's a vibrant democracy. And if governments, state governments see eye to eye with the government at the center, it is not criminal, it is legitimate. Let us see and not read meanings into it like you often do.
No, but it's good you say what you're saying, that if state governors see eye to eye with the government of the center, there's nothing wrong with it.
At all.
But these governors you're talking about are not, they don't share the same ideology, they don't share the same principles, they don't share the same political vision as the government of the center. All of a sudden, we're beginning to see this thing play out.
They are in search of the vision you know so well. They are in search of it. What's wrong with that? It's a democratic process.
The vision of just getting elected as against actually trying to foster democracy.
That is still democracy in action. Democracy is work in progress. Look, if you have your way, you turn the whole country into a laboratory where you do experiments like they do with rats. We are human beings. This is the political,
the beauty, the strength of every democratic structure is the fact that you have opposition, a vibrant opposition that will speak truth to power. But if we have governors queuing up because of their ambitions, how do you speak truth to power? The vibrant
opposition is lost in plain sight to you. That is your problem. The fact that people see eye to eye does not mean that democracy is dead. It's not when you go to court on every issue when you put a gun to each other's head, that you have a democracy. In fact, that is not democracy. Democracy is based on consensus. Consensus.
So then why do we angle after the National Assembly and call it a rubber stamp? Because all of them are all agreeing with the government in the center.
That's right. What's wrong with that?
They call them rubber stamp.
Look, you don't understand separation of powers. It's not always that the legislature will agree with the executive. Do you get me? It's not always that all the issues that the executive takes to the Supreme Court that they will win. But that is the essence of separation of powers.
All right,
so we try to be optimistic about the nature of our democracy.
But
please.
we've seen it aligned this time around.
Right,
both
Mr.
judiciary, legislature, and executive.
You are leaving Soludo, you are going to another place.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Even though to Aaron's point, Mr. Sobowale, we have seen him. This is a bit contradictory in his party because he's criticized the federal economic policies in the past, and now how convenient knowing the elections are in a few months and he's doing all this. But we'd like to thank you for your insightful analysis, as always. Mr. Dayo, many thanks for joining us. Thank you.